What's your message to the new government? Do you think they get the kind of rural economy at all?
No, I don't think any of them have set foot outside Kentish Town for the last 35 years. No, they're a hopeless bunch.
So would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Why? What have you got against him?
Hello? I thought you were running a news operation.
Keir Starmer just exploded like a microwave burrito. And guess who pulled the plug? Jeremy Clarkson. Yes, the man who has crashed more cars than Starmer has crashed policies just destroyed him in the most brutally entertaining way possible. If you thought Starmer had a strong backbone, think again. Clarkson just turned him into political jelly. What exactly did Clarkson say that sent Starmer into a red-faced meltdown? Stick around, because this drama is even juicier than Boris Johnson's WhatsApp history.
Your figures very much differ from what the figures that the farmers are holding up in their banners today. Do you think those farmers have been gulled, maybe, by some tax-dodging millionaires who want them out there demonstrating like this?
Well, look, I support our farmers. I think it's very important we do so, and that's why we put a huge amount into. We put £5 billion into farming over the next 2 years, and food sustainability. It's hugely important.
What's going
for farmers
on the streets?
Why
are they there?
Well, I think the most important thing that I can do is to engage in dialogue and be absolutely clear. For a typical case, parents wanting to pass on to their child a farm, so that's a typical case. The threshold is £3 million, and that means the vast majority, before anyone pays inheritance tax, that means the vast majority of farms will be totally unaffected by this. And it's important, I think, that I do keep restating that, because that's a very high threshold.
Keir Starmer, the man whose charisma could be outshined by a damp napkin, has once again made headlines, not for doing anything groundbreaking, of course, but for being politically taken apart by, of all people, Jeremy Clarkson. Yes, the same Jeremy Clarkson who was once fired for punching a producer over cold meat. When your political career gets reduced to rubble by a man who reviews tractors with more passion than Parliament debates, you know you have truly reached the peak of mediocrity.
Well, today, the country sent a message. And it wasn't whispered, was it? It was roared. From Doncaster to Dover, thousands of everyday Brits stood up and said, enough is enough. This was the Great British National Strike. And despite the media blackout, despite the political snobbery, it happened, didn't it? From the north to the south. In towns, the media usually can't even pinpoint on a map these days. Thousands took to the streets, not activists, not ideologues, just proud Brits who desperately want their country back. They're demanding an end to illegal immigration, net zero, inheritance tax, political attacks on our farmers.
Clarkson's takedown was not even surgical, it was agricultural. He did not carefully pick things apart. He drove a metaphorical Land Rover straight through Starmer's overly cautious persona, then reversed over it, leaving the engine running while casually smoking a cigar and laughing at the hypocrisy drifting out of Westminster like cheap cologne.
And in the next Parliament, I'd like to see the government prioritising farming. We've been asked to diversify, and when we try to do that, the local authorities tell us we can't.
Every time he speaks, you get the sense he is desperately searching for the most politically safe answer imaginable. It is like watching someone try to win a boxing match by politely asking their opponent to stop punching. And the timing could not have been worse. Just as Starmer is trying to convince people he is not a Tory in turn doing work experience in opposition politics, Clarkson shows up and publicly slams him with the subtlety of a bulldozer at a flower show.
I'm here to support the farmers. It's that simple. So they need all the help they can get, really. If she'd have wanted to take out the likes of James Dyson and investment bankers and so on, she would have used a sniper's rifle. But she's used a blunderbuss and she's hit all this lot. It was, as I understand it, it was a very rushed last-minute decision. And I think, we all make mistakes in life, and I think it's time for them to say, you know what, we this one up a bit and back down. That's my view. So I thought if I told a bunch of people that I'd bought a farm so I could shoot pheasants, it might look bad, so I thought I'd better come up with another excuse. So I said, well,
Meanwhile, the nation is actually asking for authenticity, bold ideas, and, dare we say it, a bit of personality. Starmer, on the other hand, is handing out beige policy pamphlets like he is auditioning for the office. Prime Minister edition. Let's talk about his legendary fence-sitting. If indecision were an Olympic sport, Starmer would be standing on the podium with a confused expression and a slightly apologetic smile. He is the kind of person who, when asked a simple question like tea or coffee, would call for a focus group. And when Clarkson, whose idea of subtlety is driving a caravan off a cliff, calls you out for lacking direction, it is not a roast, it is an autopsy.
He will know, of course, that the agricultural industry is one of the most difficult areas to decarbonise, requiring substantial investment. On that basis, will his family farms tax help or hinder?
I'm very pleased that the budget we put £5 billion over the next 2 years into farming and food sustainability, which is hugely important to support our farmers. He will also, no doubt, have noticed the money that's been allocated to deal with flooding, which is a constant cause of problems for farmers, and the money that's been put into dealing with the outbreak of disease, which is devastating for so many farmers. He will also know.
But it is not just Clarkson's insults that hit hard, it is the fact that they rang true. Starmer's entire campaign strategy seems to revolve around waiting for the Tories to fall apart on their own while he quietly rearranges his spreadsheets. He wants credit for simply not being as bad as the other guy, which is basically the political equivalent of a restaurant advertising that none of their food has recently made anyone sick. And that is the real power of Clarkson's takedown. It exposed just how weak Starmer's political image actually is. All it took was one man, a microphone, and a bit of common sense to pull apart the illusion that Starmer is some kind of strategic mastermind. Spoiler alert, he is not. He is the guy at the poker table who folds before the cards are even dealt. Every time Starmer makes a move, it feels like he is trying to win over people who still believe Tony Blair was misunderstood. His idea of boldness is changing the font on a policy document. Remember when the Labour Party used to stand for something? Starmer seems to think that vague disapproval is enough to rally people, and not even strong disapproval, just the mild kind your nan gives when someone puts pineapple on pizza.
Jeremy Clarkson has said, I'm surrounded by farmers and plasterers and brickies and butchers, and all I hear all day long is that there is too much immigration. He said, but if they say this out loud or if they go on a march, they are told by the London elite that they are far-right extremists or racist thugs. For the most part, he says, they're not. They're just people who know that they have to shut up when the last post is played and that a cheese rolling down a hill is funny. And he said, the fact is that 4 million people voted for reform. And he said, and more than that voted for Brexit. And Keir Starmer is upsetting them by labelling them as modern-day Hitlers. And he says, I therefore suggest that both he and his friends at the BBC calm down the rhetoric, or we could be heading for some serious trouble. And he's absolutely right.
Meanwhile, Clarkson is out there cracking jokes, making solid points, and somehow becoming the voice of common sense in a political circus. Yes, Clarkson, the man who once tried to cross the English Channel in a Nissan pickup, now sounds more grounded and in touch than the person who wants to run the country. We have well and truly entered the upside down. And do not even get started on Starmer's economic vision, or what you could call his economic fog. Watching him explain economic policy is like listening to someone describe a dream they barely remember. It is vague, a bit abstract, and usually leaves you wanting to take a nap. Clarkson mocked it by suggesting that even cows have more sense when it comes to managing resources, and honestly, the cows came out of that comparison looking like Nobel Prize winners. It is almost poetic how this whole situation sums up what is wrong with Starmer's approach. He treats politics like a courtroom, constantly appealing to some imaginary neutral judge who might one day pat him on the back and say, well done, you were technically correct. Meanwhile, the country is shouting, asking for someone who actually believes in something.
Why are you here, Mr. Clarkson?
Well, because I'm here to support farmers.
Right. Are you angry?
It's difficult to be angry on somebody else's behalf. That's like being... Yes, no, I'm not angry on someone else's behalf.
Right. So it's not about you. It's not about your farm and the fact that you bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax.
Classic BBC there. Classic. Oh, yeah. It's not the fact that I bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax. The fact.
You told the Sunday Times in 2021 that's why you bought it.
Clarkson, on the other hand, came in strong not because he wants to be Prime Minister, God forbid, but because he saw a lack of conviction and filled it with the one thing Starmer cannot fake: confidence. Say what you want about Clarkson, but at least he does not pretend to be someone he is not. This is not just political balancing, it is more like political twister. And Starmer seems permanently stuck trying to reach left while keeping himself firmly planted in the center. The real irony is that this was supposed to be Starmer's moment. The Conservatives are falling apart faster than a cheap candle in a sauna. Boris is gone, and Sunak's approval ratings are sinking so low they might need archaeologists to find them. And yet, Starmer still cannot break through. Clarkson did not just point this out, he shouted it with the impact of a Top Gear-style explosion. And people laughed, not because it was harsh, but because it was true.